Good evening, everybody. This is Hunter here, and I'm here with Scott. It's been so long. Scott, how
I
you doing, Hunter?
know. I'm doing so good now that I'm back. It just feels it's so warm and cozy being back on the pod.
Well, we missed you, man. I mean, well, Scott's been working and going to school, and planning a wedding, doing all this. Just you're a jack of all trades. Sorry, a
Ugh,
chairman of all trades. I apologize,
ugh,
but
boring.
I'm sure Brittany would love to hear that.
It's okay. She doesn't listen anyways.
Okay, perfect. Brittany, I'm gonna beat you in the playoffs in fantasy. But anyway, we're here. While Scott, you coming back is a welcome surprise. The movie we're talking about is not. We are talking about Boo, or as I
Oh,
call it.
gee, sorry, you scared me there, Hunter.
I apologize. Yeah, nothing scary in this script. I swear to God. Or as I call it, Coon, a Madea Halloween.
Oh my
So
I
I
finally understand what. I think this is probably only the second Tyler Perry Madea movie I've seen, and the other one I just barely saw. I didn't
saw
really even see from.
Temptation. Remember we watched that together.
Exactly, and that wasn't even a Medea movie, so I didn't really get the full Medea effect until this movie. And
Yeah.
man,
What'd you think?
mm, I fully understand now what you've been talking about with just. I feel like this movie is like a larger social commentary than anything else. Like I always thought, like Hunter's overblowing the whole like you're really making black people look bad, and like, but it was. I felt bad. Like I was like I would be pissed off if I were any African American that was portrayed in this movie as this just dumb and like uneducated, loud, just like I know that trying to portray some people that he knew or that were in his family or something, but it's like, oh man, that was hard to watch. That movie was really hard to watch for me. Like that was, let alone pay money for it. And that was going up to the teller or whatever, the
Yeah.
cashier, and buying a ticket to that movie. I definitely got a weird look going into that movie,
Yeah. It's pretty much how
especially be going solo on
it's
top of that.
it's pretty much how I felt for voting this year. I'm like, I'm not happy voting for Hillary, but I want to stay in the country, so I'm not voting for Trump. Like, I'm not happy about it, but here, just do it, get it over with. But,
Yep.
um, uh, but man, so look, I've if you haven't listened to my solo whiskey drunken review of Black Nativity, which if you haven't, you should. Where I think I called Tyler Perry a coon easily 30 times in that review. Like, I've only listened to it once, and even I was like, damn, I do not like Tyler Perry.
I think one of my favorite things is listening to Hunter call other black people coons.
Yeah, right? What can I say? It warms my heart. But, look, I've said my piece about Tyler Perry. I think he's the most dangerous thing to black people since the combination of a tree and rope. But I think Tyler Perry is just... I think he sucks. I've said it. I think he's terrible from all his movies. I think it finally clicked with Madea Goes to Jail, and I finally just went, wait a minute. I'm like, this is a bunch of bullshit, as you like to say. And you know, from Meet the Pains, that TBS show which went on for like 8 seasons somehow, to the fact that TBS whorishly plays his movies randomly at 1 in the morning when you want to watch like Showgirls. Tyler Perry, he's everywhere in the worst way, and let's jump into this. So Tyler Perry plays.
There's really no plot to this, so this is going to be very quick.
I know, but so Tyler Perry plays Joe, and he got divorced from God, I don't even remember his daughter's name, Leah, I think. Yeah, Leah. Him and his wife got divorced, so his 17-year-old daughter Leah is living with him, and so Tyler Perry is going out of town on a business trip, and so he calls Madea, who's also played by Tyler Perry. This is a real life version of Life with Louie, by the way, if you guys remember that, if you remember that cartoon. But so he calls Madea over because she meets this guy named Jonathan, who's a part of the. If you could think of the douchiest frat in your mind, it would be this fraternity. They're terrible in every sense of the word. If I was in a fraternity, I would be truly offended because these guys just suck beyond all reason. And so to keep her from sneaking out, he invites.
Well, isn't one of the main characters Yosef? Isn't he a YouTube star? Isn't that his claim to fame?
So I didn't know that until I started doing a little bit, and it pains me to say this word, research for this movie. Like, there's so many YouTube people in here. I was like, oh, alright, that's cool, I guess. What's her name? I think, Patrice, I think Patrice Lovely plays the daughter, Hattie, I think. Lexi Pantera, she's a YouTube star too. She just does a bunch of like videos where she twerks. So yeah, if you want to see her twerk, there you go. But yeah, there's a lot of YouTube stars in this. But Scott, man, let's just get this over with. This movie, so I would be lying if I said I didn't laugh a couple times. There is this one scene where Cassie Davis, who plays Aunt Bam, she's outside trick-or-treating with Madea, or having kids trick-or-treat, and come out get candy and all that. And that scene with them, and they call this one fat kid Biggie, that actually kind of made me laugh. I was like, it hurt me to laugh at this movie at any point, but I got a chuckle out of that. Tyler Perry also plays Joe, who's Medea's brother. And he's like trying to get high all the time and fuck the other old lady. I can't even remember what her name is. It doesn't matter. But he's like trying to fuck her, and that was kind of funny. So I mean, I got maybe 4 chuckles out of this movie. But this movie is almost 2 goddamn hours. I had no idea it was that long going into it. And I was like, Jesus, I really wish I would have known. Yeah, 1 hour and 43 minutes. And man, it felt like 2 hours at least. So I was like, oh my god, why? Why would you make a fucking Madea movie? Should have been 90 minutes flat. Or even Popstar was like 85 minutes. Should have been 85 minutes to get me in, get me out. But, so let's talk about the performances here. Tyler Perry, he plays Madea. And look, Madea can be funny. I fully acknowledge that. But Medea's funny, and like, she was just on Jimmy Fallon, and Fallon was doing his Trump impression, and they had like a phone conversation. That was really fucking funny. But the cool thing about that, Scott, is that it was 4 minutes long. It wasn't almost 2 hours, and you got Madea being loud and black and fat, running around, and there's a scene where she like flashes the fraternity guys her tits, and then she gets into a conversation at the frat party with Tyga, which just made me go, God, I know Young Money's like dead basically, but Christ, you gotta be boo Madea Halloween. Like, do you have no shame, Tyga? Like, I actually felt almost bad for Tyga for like half a second. I was like, oh, you're in this, you poor, and then I was like, oh wait, you're getting paid for this. I don't feel bad for you. You just have no shame. All right, Scott, go ahead. I as a white man who's barely not seen any Madea, I'm very curious to know how you felt about this.
I was extremely disappointed with Tyler Perry's acting skills overall. Like, I felt like, okay, at least maybe he has like some chops to be able to. He's done so many movies that I felt like the whole movie was done in a few takes. It had the feeling of like Madea was like kind of ad-libbing the whole time. She was like kind of laughing through parts of it, and it wasn't very cohesive. Like, the plot was just the stupidest thing ever. Oh, my daughter won't do what I tell her. Oh, Dad, you can't tell me what to do. Oh, let me get Madea over here, and she's gonna tell her what to do. Like, oh, they're gonna keep those bad boys away from her. Blah 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 blah. That I mean, it. The jokes, nothing was funny to me except, like you said, Joe, the old guy. He was funny. Like I laughed a couple times, but I just felt like they didn't try very hard. I felt like
no, really.
no, but I mean, like I had some expectations that maybe the comedy wasn't for me. Like I could acknowledge that. But it wasn't. It was like they didn't. It's like they kept going back to the same kind of comedy, the same kind of just like. Sure, the Biggie part was funny where they're sitting out there making fun of all the trick or treaters, but it just kept going and going, and the scenes were so long.
Yeah, they were.
That's what I think just ruined them. There's a point where like Madea and like all the older people are sitting in the living room with Brian, Tyler Perry's character, and they're just like that scene lasts for a good 10-15 minutes, and it's like there's no feel to the movie. It wasn't even meant to be scary at all, so it wasn't. I don't even understand how this was a Halloween movie. Like it was just set during Halloween, apparently. I just. Oh man, it was such a bad movie. It was so bad. I don't even know where to go from here because it's just like I was expecting a little bit of more like just coherence from one scene to the next, or from just scenes in general where they're just like ad-libbing apparently. Tyler Perry's just not a good actor at all. Like, it doesn't matter what character he's playing, he's not a good actor. Even when he's playing a man, which is apparently not his strongest, acting suit, he's horrible. I thought his character Brian was one of the worst characters in the movie. Yep. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I didn't have high expectations at all going into it. I didn't like. I set myself up for the silly, over the top black characters with just I knew what they were going for. Everyone knows what they're going for. It's not a big mystery what the movie is about. But boy, it just looks like they put very little effort into it, and apparently that's the name of the game for these. You just put a little bit of effort into it, have put a suit on, and man, it's almost like I was thinking of Eddie Murphy and how he would just kill the characters, and he would put so much like each character was different in its own way, and he put so much life into them. Yeah. And then I watched this movie, and it's like, you know what? Fuck you, Tyler Perry. You don't even hold a match to Eddie Murphy and what he was able to do. And I don't know. It was just like, and just like they're playing off the idea that any person who even slightly identifies with black culture or as an African American is going to see that just because it's Tyler Perry, and just because it's we're loud and obnoxious and we've got very strong opinions and we're just you're going to come pay money to see this movie just because. And that was just, I don't know, it almost seems slightly disrespectful to me. And I'm the whitest guy I know. You know what I mean? Like, this is like, I feel like I'm not even in that situation, and I felt slightly disrespected. And I was like, this is just so bad. It was so bad. I was hard to watch. It was really hard to sit through. That was one of those ones I was thinking about walking out of, but I had to see it through. But and you know me, I never walk out of movies. But boy,
here's my thing, dude. I went in high as hell. So I got a little.
That would have helped so much. That would have made. Oh man.
I got a couple blue moons in me. I gave this movie every chance to succeed because my expectations were already to my ankles. I'm just like, God, like they're so low. Like, you can't fuck this up. And yet Tyler Perry, because he's magic, he's black magic, if you will. He found a way to fuck this up, and just. You're right, it is insulting. By the way, one of the biggest plot holes is, so, the whole, like, scary aspect is that Madea gets these kids in trouble because the 17-year-old girl sneaks out, shocker, and they call the cops, and so the cops go to the frat house. So to get Madea back, they like terrorize them in their house, so it turns into a haunted house. So they explain every trick except for this one where they are able to write on a mirror. They never explain how they're able to.
Yeah.
They explained it, and so my thought was, okay, well is there an actual ghost? Is that like the setup for the sequel? But they just go, no, whatever. Like, don't worry about it. And that's
never address it.
Yeah, and that's by far the creepiest thing, and they never explain it. I'm just like, oh, perfect. Why would you? And
and I don't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead.
But the fact that they try to tie it together at the end with kind of a sentimental theme really pissed me off. I'm gonna stop there, but I'll let you finish here. Go ahead.
So I will just say, man, and the other thing too is, it's Tyler Perry, so it always comes back to Jesus. And so I was sitting there and I was like, oh my God, they haven't gone to a church yet. As soon as I said it, Scott, like 2 minutes later, Medea's running from the zombies or what she thinks are zombies, and she ends up in the church, and I was like, oh my God, and they let you hear just a little bit of a sermon, and it's like, it's like you can't help yourself, can you, Tyler Perry? So and I think another thing that really did piss me off about this is that this reminded me of Daddy's Home, because Brian is such a pussy. He's such a pussy. His daughter says some pretty disrespectful shit, and he just takes it. He's just like, yeah. He's like, oh, honey, don't say things like that. Like, as a father, I was sitting there. I'm like, well, not me as a father, but what I mean. But I'm sitting there. I'm like, well, I'll get a call from Maury tomorrow. But
yeah, you never know.
Yeah, right. But Johnny Appleseed on the microphone. But I'm kidding. But I'm sitting there. I'm like, as a dad, you're just letting your daughter push you around to the point that you're such a punk. And so when the movie inevitably is like, hey, he's going to stand up for himself, I'm like, he shouldn't be proud of standing up to his 17-year-old daughter. He should have done this shit like forever ago. It took Madea and Joe and another old woman whose name it doesn't matter to have him like find the strength within himself to do it. It's like, oh, what the fuck ever. So just real quick before we get the final thoughts, the budget on this was $20 million. It's already made $65 million, and this is just
my God.
This is a thing with Tyler Perry. They pretty much filmed all the films in Atlanta. He's a writer, producer, director, and it's Tyler Perry Studios that's distributing this along with Lionsgate. So he's doing everything.
And I'm sure they didn't pay anything for. I mean, there was probably maybe 10 different sets. I mean, they paid no money for any kinds of like over the top like special effects or anything like that. It's all very, very plain, and it's that in a house, few scenes in a house, few scenes in a frat house, few scenes outside. It's very, very simple that way.
No, exactly, and so he's able to cut down on all of that because he's doing most of it, and it screams to how he really, how he's able to just not do. Yeah, seriously, how he's able to just not do shit, and it pisses me off to beyond all reason because he doesn't have to put any money in, which means he's putting very little effort in. That's why someone like Ava DuVernay, who of course directed Selma, or Ryan Coogler, who did Creed and Fruitvale Station, soon to be doing Black Panther. Yay! That's why those two directors are so important, because those are good black directors who aren't selling us out. And Tyler Perry, he is a cancer, and I don't care what anyone says. He is after I saw Alex Cross with you, which I don't think you remember that we watched that. Remember it had the
I vaguely remember that.
The guy from Lost as a villain. Yeah, it was. Yeah, after that I went, I'm done. Oh, this is the nail. I no longer think you're even close. You're even respectable. And so getting to my final thoughts here, this movie sucks. It really does. I mean, I got those couple of laughs, so that will save it from a go fuck yourself, just because I did chuckle a couple times. But I'm gonna give this a D+, because I cannot even get this to average. So yeah, D+ for me. I mean, if you see it on USA, which it will inevitably end up because a Madea Christmas was just on there 2 weeks ago and just made me sad. So it'll end up on there. You can watch it there and be like, oh, cool, this was fun. But yeah, don't pay to see this. You really shouldn't. Scott, your final thoughts, sir.
Yeah, just I really get frustrated with movies when the entire movie is so silly and over the top, and then at the end they try to tie it together and make you feel all warm and cuddly inside. And they try to turn it around with the daughter. Let's see, what is her name? Rain, and try to get her to understand what she's doing, and like at the end she's like, oh okay, all right, yeah, okay, I understand. Like the entire time she's a complete bitch, and then at the end it's like, oh well, Madea really turned it around for me. If anybody's a good role model, it's fucking Madea. So just like so pandering, just the most pandering movie to that community, and saying, oh, we got a church reference in there. Oh, we got the girl to turn it around so she's not a little slut anymore. Okay, we got Madea, the over the top older black woman in there, and the older black man, and we got all the boxes checked off for you. It just watching the movie, I should have done what you did. Smoked some weed, got drunk, and just tried to have a good time with it. But I went in trying to give it a chance. Is really okay. Maybe this isn't for me. Maybe this comedy is just not directed for my demographic, and I totally accept that. But at a certain point, it's like you gotta try. You gotta write a script. I honestly felt like Madea was just ad-libbing 80% of that entire movie, 80% at least. Oh yeah, and it didn't work. It did not work. It was just not a good. It wasn't well written. It wasn't well put together. The scenes were long. The whole frat thing was really weird. They threw Tyga in there just for like, oh hey, look at this rapper. You guys like rappers, right? This guy's pretty cool.
Because they were not going to pay for the weekend. Who's actually? They're like, how much?
Right, exactly. And he was in the movie like himself. He was actually in the movie for probably 3 minutes total screen time.
About that.
It was. Man, this was not good. This was just not, and just on
that. Tell me what.
On top of the fact of the whole pandering thing.
Yeah.
This has to be a go fuck yourself for me.
Yay!
Because I was thinking about giving it like a D- and being like sort of nice about it, and like, you know what? Okay, I chuckled a couple times when Joe made a few comments or whatever, but this is just. It's too bad for me not to give it the worst grade that we can give it. So, Tyler Perry, you can go ahead and fuck yourself.
Hey, fair enough. I cannot blame you for that. But guys, have you had the pleasure, I use that term loosely, of seeing Boo and Madea Halloween? Let us know what you thought of it if you saw it. You can follow us here on SoundCloud at TheRealPineapple775. Let us know what you want us to review. I have what will be probably one of the more controversial things coming up this weekend. 5 ways DC can fix their cinematic universe, which I'm looking forward to all my DC friends yelling at me about. We will also have a review up this weekend for Arrival and for The Legend of Tarzan, which I'm so excited to see. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter at JHunterRealPineapple. You can follow Mr. Colin O'Neill. We miss you, Colin, at The Real O'Neill. And you can follow Scott on Twitter at
Newman the First.
Alright guys, thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Peace.